thought I'd let a perfect host like you get away?
Venom needs a host like I need tickets to Rogers the Musical. Over the many years of the Black Symbiote's existence, he has taken over a great many characters and used them as his host. The symbiotic partnership between a character and Venom often increases the strength of the character in question. Venom often gives them increased healing and strength, while at the same time driving them slightly mad.
We are Venom.
Let's check out the strongest Venom character combinations ever seen in movies and comics right now. Johnny Storm is one of the most powerful members of the Fantastic Four, and in an alternate story of Secret Wars, the Venom symbiote attached to him after being released from Peter Parker. I know what you're thinking. Doesn't Venom only have like 2 weaknesses? And isn't one of them fire? Well, yeah, you're right, which is why this was a very far thing from a match made in heaven. The two bonded, and the very first time Johnny utilized his powers, the Venom symbiote hightailed it and ran. So while this was a short-lived experience, and one that was doomed to fail, it provides some pretty great comic relief. Everyone loves Hawkeye. You know why? Because he continues to fight and show immense courage no matter how much people make fun of him. During a Civil War story in an alternate universe, the famed Archer was bonded with the Venom symbiote. Together, they single-handedly took out King Ock, a lifeless version of Wilson Fisk controlled by the arms of Doc Ock. Overall, the symbiote enhanced Hawkeye's strength and durability, but his greatest weapon was still his expert marksmanship, showing us that the chemistry in this relationship may have left a lot to be desired. In an alternate universe, the Venom symbiote took over Rocket Raccoon, and together the two became a bounty-hunting duo with high aspirations. Rocket went after this universe's version of Captain America, Carol Danvers. This is not the most powerful Venom combination, and the symbiote and the raccoon didn't always get along. The black symbiote even clogged some of Rocket's weapons, and together they were no match for Carol. While ultimately Rocket became a stronger, better fighter, the best thing the symbiote did for him was give him a convenient way to store his vast weaponry. Mac Gargan is the Spider-Man villain most often known as the Scorpion. However, he too has had a run in the black suit. After being recruited by Norman Osborn as part of the Sinister Six, Mac was sent to kidnap Aunt May. On his way, he was approached by the Venom symbiote, who was looking for a host with criminal experience and an equal hatred for Spider-Man. This version of Venom has much of the same powers with none of the chemistry, as Mac was resistant to the symbiote. Spider-Man was able to defeat him rather easily, and he was sent to prison. Like many of these instances, US Agent's time with the Venom symbiote also took place in an alternate universe. In this universe, a fight saw the super soldier one-on-one with Nuke of the Thunderbolts, and he wound up losing both his arm and his leg. Even with this, he still attempted to be the hero and fight. Seeking help, he was given the Venom symbiote for its extreme healing factor, and miraculously he was able to regrow his limbs and was restored back to his original glory. His time with the symbiote didn't go much further, but it was certainly a miracle experienced by the Captain America wannabe. Two of Spider-Man's greatest enemies are definitely Venom and of course the Green Goblin. Peter and Norman have been at odds for decades at this point. What happens when his two greatest villains join forces? In an alternate reality, Norman became the president, was overtaken by the Venom symbiote, and most importantly went by the nickname Ozzy. President Ozzy Osborn and Venom amassed incredible power and formed a new Thunderbolts team which kept himself in power. Eventually, this crazy train of a story went off the rails when a Spider-Verse army of Spider-Men were able to take Norman and Venom down. Ngozi was a Nigerian woman and hopeful track star before an accident left her in a wheelchair for what would be the rest of her life. However, one day she found herself in the midst of a brawl between the Rhino and T'Challa, the Black Panther, who were fighting over a vial of the Venom symbiote. Rhino actually ended T'Challa's life and caused the symbiote to find its way to Ngozi. She used her new abilities to walk again and fought so well that she took the Rhino out. Ngozi had a certain ability to command the symbiote so that it did not control her. Her abilities impressed the Dora Milaje, who named her the interim Black Panther and successor to the late King of Wakanda. One of Marvel's most notorious villains was also once the subject host for the Great Venom symbiote. In an alternate universe leading up to the Venomverse, Victor Von Doom was negotiating a peace deal with the Avengers, admitting to them that the symbiote had bonded with him. To say these two had a rocky relationship would be an understatement, as Doom spends the majority of the short story trying to resist Venom's influence. Doom wanted to take over the world, but not as a puppet for the symbiote. Eventually, Venom overtook the Latvian leader as a vessel for Doom, leaving nothing but the form of Victor Von Doom with his mind lost. With Doom's resources, this version of Venom became a king, until absorbed into the Poison universe. Anne Weying is the longtime love interest to the most well-known Venom host Eddie Brock. Once in an altercation, Anne was shot and nearly lost her life. In order to save her, the Venom symbiote left Eddie and bonded with Anne. She awakened as She-Venom and ate every hostile person in the vicinity. She was horrified at what the symbiote had made her do, and would only become She-Venom again when Eddie's life was in danger. As She-Venom, Anne receives all the same power and strength that Venom provides to Eddie, but she is much more reluctant to bond with the symbiote given its tendency to eat people. When Venom took over the body of Frank Castle, he actually fully gave himself to Frank's will, calling himself the Arsenal of Frank's War. However, this was all for a bargain, as Frank agreed and used Venom to wipe out Wilson Fisk and all the crime families in New York in exchange that Frank take out Spider-Man. When it all came down to it, Frank refused to pull the trigger. Through this combination, Venom even remarks on the savagery and bloodlust of the Punisher being unlike any he had ever seen. Together, this duo wiped out all crime in New York in a single night. On Earth 53912, a young Roberto Reyes became possessed by his uncle's demonic spirit and was transformed into his universe's version of the Ghost Rider, and attempted to use his new powers heroically, fighting off the evil calls of the demon within him. He then came into contact with the Venom symbiote, and Robbie, the spirit, and the symbiote each fought for control of the human host they were all sharing. Robbie was defeated when Venom and the spirit teamed up and became the Host Rider. The demonic fire allowed the symbiote immunity to flames, and together they wreaked havoc and devoured the souls of everyone around them. Gwen Stacy was the first love interest of Peter Parker, but in another universe she was bitten by a radioactive spider, and in that universe became its hero, Spider-Woman. The Venom symbiote of this universe did not come from space like we would normally see, but instead it was artificially created from a mutagen produced by the Lizard, aka Harry Osborn. Foggy Nelson was a corrupt attorney who used the symbiote to frame heroes for misdeeds, given that it drove the heroes mad and violent. When the symbiote attached itself to Gwen, however, at first she was able to control it with music. Then, upon learning of her father's hospitalization, she too lost control. With the powers of Spider-Woman and the aggressive tendencies of the symbiote, along with the healing factor of the Lizard, she was one powerful hybrid. Dude, Venom took over a frickin' T-Rex. And yes, it was insane. During the Old Man Logan storyline, Logan and Hawkeye found themselves recreating a popular Jurassic Park scene with a T-Rex taken over by Venom. There's not much to say here, other than in the dystopian future where Old Man Logan and Old Man Hawkeye is set, a piece of the Venom symbiote took over one of the top predators in all of Earth's history, and gave the T-Rex increased strength, speed, and the ability to heal, creating a monster of unholy proportions. Jamie Madrox is the mutant with the power to create a number of copies of himself. Over the years, he has used his powers for all forms of villainy, from petty theft to populating multiple roles within criminal organizations. Known as Multiple Man, Jamie is the first, persons that Hawkeye encounters in the Old Man Hawkeye storyline. Very violently, Hawkeye takes out the clones one by one, and leaves them for the vultures in the desert wasteland. Venom then comes to their aid and takes over Madrox as his new host. This version of Venom may not have the chemistry with the host that he has with someone like Eddie Brock or Flash, but adopting the mutant's powers allowed Venom to create a Venom horde of identical copies to wreak havoc on the dystopian future. Kron Stone is the Venom of the future. He is the half-brother of Miguel O'Hara, aka Spider-Man 2099, and often serves as his enemy once he was taken over by the Venom symbiote. Originally, Venom had actually saved Kron from a fatal knife wound, and together the two formed a strong bond. Given that this was the future, it was said that the Venom symbiote had seen all manner of evolution and mutation over the years. Together with Kron Stone, the symbiote displayed multiple new powers. Most impressive of all was that it gave Kron acidic blood and saliva. Kron was especially sadistic. Though he did not know Miguel was his half-brother, he attempted to emotionally destroy him by hurting those closest to him. Eventually, the symbiote was separated from Kron and disappeared, never to be seen again. Groot was originally exiled from his home planet for being too kind. From here he met his family, the Guardians, in a very similar way that we are used to. In this universe, the Guardians were trying desperately to stop a prophecy that would lead to the end of the world. This prophecy involved Black Order member Cull Obsidian regaining the Venom symbiote. Therefore, in Wakanda, when the Guardians encountered a symbiote-infused Kraven the Hunter, Groot knew he would do anything to stop him from getting to Cull Obsidian. When Venom tried to make the transition, Groot got in the way and became the final host of the symbiote, unfortunately losing his kind nature, and trading his catchphrase from "I am Groot" to "We are Venom." The hybrid was incredibly powerful, offering instant healing, shape-shifting, and elasticity. Flash Thompson was Peter Parker's longtime bully turned friend, and is one of the most well-associated characters with the Venom symbiote. Flash fought in the Iraq War and lost his legs during his service. He was recruited by the US government to receive the Venom symbiote they had acquired as part of Project Rebirth 2.0, becoming known as Agent Venom. Flash went on to have one of the greatest relationships with the symbiote, and Venom even called him a friend. Together, the two of them were incredibly powerful as well. On top of the strength, healing, and restored use of his legs, he was also outfitted with an arsenal of weaponry by the government, making him their perfect tactical agent. It was revealed by Marvel Comics that way back in Vietnam, the US government had been experimenting with symbiotes. Specifically, Nick Fury was attempting to create a new version of Super Soldier from the alien species. Naturally, it went horribly wrong, and the symbiotes took control of several soldiers in the jungles of Vietnam. He recruited Wolverine to help him get the situation under control. For a brief time, Wolverine was overtaken by one of the symbiotes, and the monstrosity destroyed the life model decoy of Fury. Though their time together was short, as an explosion separated the two, we briefly saw an unrelenting symbiote-powered Wolverine. In a what-if story, everyone's favorite merc with a mouth was possessed by the alien symbiote Venom. The result was a bevy of comedic and disastrous events. Look, it's just nuts. Deadpool works for Galactus, the Watcher tells us that with great power comes more reason to party, and Deadpool has to rip the new hairstyle that the symbiote gives him off. At the end of the day, Venompool is an incredibly powerful character, much like Deadpool himself. But the incredible power goes by the wayside so Deadpool can crack a joke every 10 minutes. It's honestly fantastic. Peter Parker is often considered the original host of the Venom symbiote, who picked up the alien during the Secret Wars event. Obviously, the relationship would end poorly as Venom would go on to become one of Spider-Man's arch-enemies. However, during their bond, Peter saw an increase in his already super strength, and his power was increased as it drove him towards especially aggressive tendencies. This is what made Peter want to ditch Venom, as he did not like who he had become. And even in film versions, it drove him towards physical violence against people he cared about. Many of Venom's characteristics, like his look and web powers, come directly from his first interaction with the Amazing Spider-Man. The story of Venom Thor starts in a what-if issue of the series. After destroying its host, Peter Parker, the Venom symbiote found its way to Hulk, which was an incredibly powerful combination. However, it was no match for Thor. Thor took down Bruce Banner after the Venom symbiote bonded with him. This being a part of Venom's plan, he let go of Bruce and attached himself to one of the most powerful beings in the universe, the God of Thunder. With the combined powers of Thor and Venom, Doctor Strange, the Fantastic Four, and even Captain Marvel had no effect on the deadly duo. Venom Thor's powers include those of the God of Thunder as well as energy absorption through Mjolnir. It was not until Black Bolt was summoned to beat this abomination that Venom Thor's continued weakness of sensitivity to sound was exploited. Thaddeus Ross once became three powerful beings at once. He is obviously the Red Hulk, and much like Roberto Reyes, he once had his body share the Venom symbiote and the Spirit of Vengeance at once. In a confrontation with Blackheart, Flash Thompson gave the symbiote to Ross, and together they freed the Spirit, creating an insanely powerful monster capable of taking the Son of the Devil down. Unlike Reyes, the three entities within Ross were able to work together and gave him incredible power. His already great strength increased, he held the power of Hell's flames, and most important, he rode Ghost Rider's motorcycle and it just looked awesome. Eddie Brock is probably the most well-known host of the Venom symbiote. There are certainly a few others who come to mind, but to many, Venom and Eddie Brock are one and the same. Eddie and the Venom symbiote have arguably the greatest working relationship. After Peter Parker ditched the symbiote due to his disagreements with what the suit did to him, it found its way to Eddie, an expert New York reporter. Venom gifted Eddie with superhuman strength and healing abilities, allowing him to battle beings like the Wallcrawler and Carnage on multiple occasions. Eddie and Venom became so strong together that they eventually were able to defeat Null, the symbiote god, and take its place, adopting the new alias of the King in Black. Robbie Reynolds, aka the Sentry, has always struggled controlling his evil half known as the Void. In the Contest of Champions, a game between the Collector and the Grandmaster, the Sentry and Eddie Brock were put on the same team. Unfortunately, the Sentry was disintegrated by the Punisher of the Future. However, he and the Void's essence were absorbed by the Venom symbiote, and multiple creatures known as the Symbioids were created. They were essentially mindless, malicious creatures with the powers of Robbie Reynolds and the shape and makeup of Venom. They were an incredible army that took on the Ultimates and caused a lot of damage along the way. During the Siege of Asgard, Carol Danvers and Spider-Man were fighting with the Mac Gargan version of Venom. Carol was able to briefly separate Gargan and the symbiote, but that left her wide open as Venom's next host. Venom gained control of Carol, though she spent the entire time fighting to get free of him. All the powers of Miss Marvel were at Venom's disposal, including her photon blasts, cosmic energy, and flight abilities. Together, the two had Spider-Man running in fear as he may have actually seen his life flashing before his eyes. However, Miss Marvel was able to overcome her short run as Venom by breaking free. So, though it was short-lived, we saw possibly the most powerful version of Venom ever. Whether he is chomping down on some bad guys, fighting crime, or causing it, Venom is one powerful alien symbiote when combined with the right person. Which Venom combination do you think is the most powerful? And which character should Venom take over next?